Hey, hello everyone. So, today's lesson we're looking at synapses and reflexes, and our remember task is going to carry on from our last lesson. So we've got a picture of a neuron or a nerve cell here, and what I would like you to do is describe how it is adapted to do its job. And remember, its job is to transfer electrical impulses throughout the nervous system. So how is it adapted to do that? So pause the video, spend about 5 minutes thinking about it and getting some answers down, and then come back for the answers. Oh, welcome back. Okay, let's have a go through some answers. So if you have a look at our neuron down the bottom here, we can see that it's very elongated. The kind of long part of the neuron is called the axon. This allows it to carry impulses over long distances. And then we've also got the dendrons, which branch out from around the nucleus and down at the tail end as well. And they allow the neuron to connect with other nerves and allow it to receive incoming impulses from surrounding neurons. And then around the axon is covered in fat, or a fatty sheath, and this increases the speed at which impulses can travel. Now, it's very important that impulses can travel as quickly as possible because they protect us from danger, essentially. And we're going to look at how that works today. So, if we start with what is a reflex, now you need to write this definition down. A reflex is an automatic response. This is a response to a stimulus that happens so quickly you don't have time to think. So, your nervous system lets you take in information from your surroundings and allows you to respond in the correct way. However, some of your responses are going to be so fast that they happen without giving you time to think. So, for example, when you touch something hot or sharp, you pull your hand back before you even feel the pain. And if something comes into your face, you blink. An automatic response like this is called a reflex. Now, a reflex is different from other reactions because the impulse doesn't go to your brain to be processed. It just goes straight to the effector. So, in this example, your impulse is going to come from your sensory organs. So, for example, in this picture, your skin, and then it's, instead of going to the brain to be processed and then to your effector, it's just going to go straight to the effector. So, for example, the muscles in your arms, which is going to move your hand away from whatever you're touching. Now, what are reflexes for? We have reflexes because it helps us to avoid danger or harm. And they also carry out some of our basic bodily functions. So, for example, breathing and moving food through our digestive system, and sometimes blinking. This is really important that this happens automatically because, for example, while we're sleeping, we still need to breathe, our heart still needs to pump, and we can't do that consciously while we're asleep. So reflexes do not involve the conscious part of the brain. That is probably one of the most important things to remember. A reflex does not involve the conscious part of the brain. Let's take a look at this. So this is just going to show you the journey that an impulse will take in a reflex arc. So you can see here someone's about to touch a cactus. The cactus is the stimulus and the sensory organ is the skin. And once your skin detects a pinprick from this cactus, it sends an impulse along here, the sensory neuron. That sensory neuron is then going to go to the spinal cord. And this part in here, inside the spinal cord, is called the relay neuron. And then it's going to go down a motor neuron, remember they're different from each other, to your effector. So in this example, it's the muscle. And that muscle is then going to contract and make you pull your hand away from the pain. So simple reflex actions, such as the pain withdrawal reflex that we are all familiar with, it involves 3 types of neurons. So we've got the sensory neuron, the motor and the relay neurons, and these connect a sensory neuron and a motor neuron. They're found in the central nervous system. An electrical impulse is going to pass from the receptor along the sensory neuron to the central nervous system in your spinal cord. It's then going to pass along a relay neuron, which is going to be in the spinal cord, and then straight back out to a motor neuron. From there, the impulse is then going to arrive at the effector organ, and the effector organ will either be a muscle or a gland, and then we call this pathway a reflex arc. And it's really important that you'll see reflex arcs in different ways. So it'll either be a hand or it'll be a leg or an eye, but they all follow the same kind of pathway. Okay, this is kind of like a simplified version, and I would write this little pathway down. So your receptor is going to be your skin, your eyes, your ears, your nose, whatever it is you are using to detect your environment or detect a stimulus. The impulse is going to travel along a sensory neuron. It will then arrive at a relay neuron within the spinal cord, and that impulse will then move out through a motor neuron to your effector, so either a muscle or a gland. So if you need a second, pause the video and jot this little pathway down. Okay, this one here is more or less just for your reference, for you to come back to while you're doing your work later on. And this is to show how a reflex arc can be presented in a different way in an exam, for example. So in the leg, it works the same as it does in the eye or any other part of your body or your hand. The stimulus here is this person's knee is being knocked with a little hammer, a little tap, and it will send a impulse to the sensory neuron. It will arrive at the spinal cord, where it passes through a relay neuron, and it will then move down through a motor neuron and force you to kind of kick your leg. This is something you can try at home. You don't even need to use the hammer, you can just use the side of your hand to tap the area just below your kneecap, and it causes your leg to kick by itself. Okay, let's have a look at synapses. Now, this is really important to remember. You just need to know what a synapse is. So, a synapse is a small gap between two neurons. So, in our nervous system, our neurons aren't all touching each other. There's a tiny little space. And these neurons allow, these synapses allow neurons to communicate with surrounding neurons quite quickly. Okay, so if you are foundation, you do not need to listen to the next bit. You can skip forward a couple of slides and move on to the task. But if you are higher, then you need to kind of stay with me for another slide, because we are going to look at exactly how an impulse travels through a synapse. So a synapse is a small gap between two neurons. Electrical impulses cannot just leap over this gap. They need to get across somehow. So what happens is the impulse is able to cross by a diffusion of chemicals between the neurons, and these chemicals are called neurotransmitters. It's important to notice as well that chemical diffusion is going to be a lot slower than the impulse in the neuron, but it does allow the impulse to jump to the next neuron. So we can see here in this image, at the ends of our neurons, we have these sacs containing the chemicals. The chemicals are then going to be released into the gap between the neurons when an impulse needs to jump over, and the chemicals will attach to the surface of the next neuron and provide kind of like a bridge for the impulse to travel through to get to the next neuron. Linked on this slide is a video that's also going to help you as well. So if you need to watch this video, you need to go into the PowerPoint and access the link that way. Okay, and then this is, I'm not going to read through this, this is just for your reference while you're working later on, something to help you. But this also gives you a step-by-step guide to how messages are moved through a synapse. Okay, so now I should have both higher and foundation students here ready for this task. You just need to ask these questions. So, why are reflexes important? Why is it important that reflexes don't go to the conscious area of your brain? Afterwards, explain why some actions like breathing and swallowing are reflex actions, while others like speaking and eating are under your conscious control. Be aware of how many marks each question is worth, and that'll give you a kind of clue of how much you need to write. I would suggest spending about 6 or 7 minutes on all these questions. So pause the video and then come back for your answers. Okay, hello, let's go for some answers. So, why are reflexes important? They enable you to avoid damage and danger because they happen very quickly, and they control a lot of your bodily functions, such as breathing, without need for conscious thought. So, for example, remember when I said we still need to breathe while we're asleep? We can't do that consciously while we're asleep. Okay, why is it important that reflexes don't go to the conscious parts of the brain? This would slow the process down, okay, and it makes it less effective at preventing damage. It'd also be really difficult to consciously control all your bodily functions. So if, for for example, you put your hand on a hot stove and you had to think about moving your hand away, your hand could get third-degree burns in that time. So you need to be able to react very quickly. And the last one, remind me what the question is. Okay. So our reflex actions need to happen constantly and they operate automatically, so even when we're asleep. So they can't rely on our conscious brain, because when we're asleep we're not conscious. Speaking and eating require coordination and it requires different parts of the body, so we need to have conscious control of it. Okay, and then afterwards we've got an example exam questions. This is worth 6 marks. You're going to need to put 6 points in. So I need you to describe what happens when you step on a pin. So there's a couple of slides further back in the PowerPoint are really going to help you with this. And you need to make sure you indicate when an electrical impulse or a chemical impulse is involved. So pause the video. It's going to take about 6 or 7 minutes, and then come back to your mark scheme. Okay, hello, welcome back. So when you step on a pin, your receptor, so the skin in your feet, detect a stimulus, so the front brick. That electrical impulse is going to then travel down a sensory neuron. It will then, on its journey, come across synapses, and then it will need to use a chemical impulse. So remember, the ends of the neurons release a chemical, and it provides kind of like a bridge for the impulse to jump across. It will then go to a relay neuron in the spinal cord, which is, again, an electrical impulse. It will then find more synapses that it needs to jump across, which is a chemical impulse. And then it will travel down a motor neuron to your receptors. So in this case, it's the muscles in your leg, which allow you to move your foot away from the pinprick. Okay, that brings us to the end. So in your assessment, you have your regular multiple choice questions and a couple of exam questions. There's also a higher section. Now that section is not required, but it is strongly suggested that if you are higher, you have a go at it, because it will really help you. If you need any help, do not hesitate to contact me on Miss Charbonneau, and we will both help you out as much as possible. But yeah, I hope you're all keeping well, and good luck with the assignment. See you next time.